no. I was worried, I was upset, I was not having fun. Okay, this isn't right. This isn't fair. But when the only detail I've got left in my brain about this book, when you bring it up and all I'm thinking about is that man named his own penis. Well, well, well. Hi, we're back with another tier ranking video. Happy Valentine's Day. I was going over some ideas for Valentine's Day content and I decided to just see how wrong my opinions apparently are. I don't know how this is gonna go because I'm going to be using the Goodreads rating system, and I find that with romances, specifically rom-coms, you have to be like really bad for it to fall below kind of like the 3.8 rating. So who knows? We'll see. I know that I have 2, maybe 3 hot takes. Other than that, we'll see, but basically, you read the title, I hope. I'm going to be ranking all the rom-coms I have read. Some of these, disclaimer, some of these are borderline just romances. So please, if one of these is in here and it's like not a romantic comedy, I apologize. Okay? But they're all romance books. Ranking the romance books I have read and then seeing how Goodreads tells me that my taste is incorrect. But before we dive in, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, and I think it's very timely. I am filming this around the time that we just had our first little TikTok hiccup with the ban, etc. And I know a lot of people who tend to post their content on TikTok are looking to see where else they can go. And if you are interested in coming over to the booktube space or YouTube, depending on what kind of content you make, I have to recommend you check out Skillshare. Thank you so much to Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform. As you probably know, they have classes dedicated to everything. If you want to start knitting and cross stitch and smaller crafts that you want to do at home, or if you're trying to launch your career as a graphic designer, you're trying to figure out how to market yourself as a freelancer, you can do that as well. I personally have 2 classes about being a YouTuber, how to start vlogging, and also how to kind of organize your behind the scenes, whether it's scheduling, working with sponsors, and organizing your finances and stuff like that. It's all the basics. And then they have a ton of other creators as well who have made really wonderful courses for you about YouTube, how to talk on camera, how to edit, what you do and don't need to buy. Don't buy that expensive camera. Don't do it. As we are starting the new year, if you want to pick up a new skill, maybe a new platform to post your book reviews on, come to BookTube, please. Please check out Skillshare. I will have a link in the description box. The first 500 people to click it will get 1 month free of Skillshare. And along with classes, they also have learning paths. So if you are overwhelmed by the amount of classes they have curated them into learning paths. So you can just kind of search for your goal and it will give you sort of a list of 5 classes to really like get that skill down. Thank you as always to Skillshare. And like I said, please come to BookTube. Welcome the BookTube newbie tag. We're the easiest community to get a start with, you know? But before we get started, my throat is telling me that I need to make tea. And then I will make and break some hearts with this tier ranking. Okay, see you in a second. Okay, I'm back. We're also dealing with some of the worst air quality we've had this year, so I'm currently choking down throat coat. We love herbal remedies until they use licorice, and ugh, it works, but it is not. At what cost, you know? Let's talk about my tiers first. Top to bottom, you guys know that I have a really difficult time putting things on a numerical scale, on a 5-star scale. This is my attempt. So there are 5 there are 6. How did I do that? Okay, well there are 6 categories. I don't know how I did that. Top tier, 5 stars is, I believe in love. I believe in love. Under that, which would be, I think, more of like a 4.5, perhaps, is above average. I've read a lot of romance books. They might have like 1 or 2 things that kind of stick out to me that puts them a little bit above the rest, okay? But not a 5-star, right? I appreciate the effort. After that, I have fine. I'm just an ordinary girl. Fine. This is an average book that passed the time for me and the bonus of I remember parts of it, okay? Because after that, our next tier is forgettable. Don't you forget about me. Where I can barely tell you anything about it. I will say though, for some of these, it's been a really long time since I've read them, so the line between fine and forgettable, like some of the ones, disclaimer, some of the ones I'm putting in forgettable, it could be also a time thing. When I read them at the time, it might have been a little bit better. Underneath that, I'm gonna put weird feelings. And he was wearing these fugly jeans. Because some of these made me feel weird, like things were just off about them that I maybe couldn't put my finger on, or I can put my finger on. And so that's more like a 2-star. And then my 1-star and below, jail. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. I've got 1. And you know what? Some of these, I'm sorry to the other romantic interest involved. If one of the romantic interests should be put in jail, the whole book is going into jail. Okay? I'm only, as I'm briefly looking at these, I only have 1 that is like jail. Okay? Let's begin. Tiermaker.com was nice enough to randomize them for me. So I'm just going with how they're doing it. Okay? Starting with boyfriend material. We're starting off kind of dull, unfortunately. I'm gonna put this in fine. I remember reading boyfriend material on an airplane. I remember not liking I thought that like the relationship didn't really click for me. I thought that one of them maybe wasn't very nice to the other one. There was like a dinner party, right? Am I getting things mixed up? Anyway, I just remember kind of being like, yeah, I read that, you know, that's boyfriend material. After this, okay, this this book is getting put lower than it really should be. I'm being too harsh about this book because the only detail I remember from it is that he named his dick. And he talks about his dick using that name, like Mr. blah blah blah. Alright? Needless to say, weird feelings dating Dr. Dill. Again, please understand, the rest of the book was not that bad, but when the only detail I've got left in my brain about this book, when you bring it up and all I'm thinking about is that man named his own penis, weird feelings is the only place I can put it, okay? So, I'm sorry. And now we're jumping right in to the deep end, which I haven't read yet. By the way, Allie Hazelwood, deep end, I'm scared. We're jumping into the romance deep end of Emily Henry. Beach read. Ooh, controversial. I'm gonna put it in fine. It was just fine. I'm just an ordinary girl. For me, I think also having read Book Lovers, I read them spaced out, but something about, there were so many similarities to Book Lovers and Beach Read in terms of like, they're both bookish people dealing with either writing or editing books, and that's kind of their relationship is centered around their careers as people in the literary world. It felt a little similar, and from what I remember, I liked Book Lovers more. Now, that was my first Emily Henry, and Book Lovers was in the very beginning of my journey into romance. I think it was actually like my second romance I ever read. So you never forget your first or your second. Yeah, I think the beach read was like fine. I also was expecting more beach. I just went into it with different vibes. I didn't particularly love the setup. It did make me cry though. Oh boy, did it make me cry. So when I go into an Emily Henry, I want my world to be changed, and I was kind of like the same person at the end of that one. So okay, how do I do this? How do I be fair to this book? Next up is Not Another Love Song. How do I be fair to this book? Okay, this isn't right. This isn't fair. I don't even know if I should do the whole like checking on Goodreads thing because I'm not being fair to this book. I'm putting it in weird feelings only because, once again, the thing that stands out for me in this book is that there's a scene or maybe multiple scenes where they are both playing their instruments naked. And I just, something about that mental image cracks me up. So this is about kind of this enemies to lovers. They're both musicians. They end up playing for the same orchestra. Drama. Who gets first chair, etc. It was fine, but you knew what was going to happen beat for beat. I was like way ahead of everything. And yeah, the only scene that made a real big impression on me was they played their instruments naked together. Yeah. So like the actual plot, it was fine. Similar to Dating Dr. Dill, totally fine. But the memories, what has been stained into my brain, nude cello playing. All right. Better than the movies. I'm gonna put this in fine, but almost forgettable. But this is what I mean by I read this book a long time ago. I remember it giving me really good feels. I believe it's a sort of fake dating thing. I believe a guy best friend is helping his girl best friend try to date this other guy when like he's been clearly in love with her the whole time. One of those always get me, all right? So I remember it being good, but it's almost in the forgettable category because I don't actually remember that much about it. Compared to like how much I remember from Book Lovers and Better Than the Movies, I think I read these around the same time. I remember more of Book Lovers, okay? But Better Than the Movies was cute. It gave me little butterflies. It was fine. It was fine. A funny story. I'm so sorry, but a funny story is going in forgettable because to me, more than a romance, Funny Story read to me like a tourist brochure to Michigan, which is not bad. I actually really enjoyed the kind of dates and how passionate the male character was about his hometown or the town that they were living in and stuff like that. But to me, it didn't feel... There wasn't like the romance that I necessarily wanted, and I think that the way that the story started, you knew how the story was gonna end. I forget who I was watching, but someone was doing a review and they were like, if this story ends with them saying ... and they were right. I was like, yeah, Emily, she wasn't trying to surprise us with that ending. The last sentence, yeah, no. This is about two people who their partners dumped them in order to date each other, and they had to move in together because one of them got kicked out of the apartment. That's the story. So Book Lovers, I'm gonna put it in above average. Yeah, it's just a fun time. It's about a woman who is taking a vacation with her sister, going to like a small town where she happens to run into someone else who is an editor. I believe they're both editors. It's this little summertime romance where they're working on a book together, editing a book together, and I just remember their first conversation. I think they're having dinner at like an Italian restaurant, and the banter was so good. I was just like, how can Emily Henry think in such a funny way? Like, how do those jokes, where do they come from, Emily? So yeah, I think that for me, the banter really stuck with me. The story doesn't. Like, there are a few scenes that I distinctly remember, but for me, I just remember that the banter was top notch as a fresh, new to the genre reader. After that, so this is what I mean by saying that some of these books you might not consider them a romantic comedy. Yours truly, that's really hard. I kind of want to put it in 5 stars. Wow, damn, should I? I'm gonna trust my gut on this, actually. I'm gonna put it in I Believe. It's either above average or I Believe, okay? Yours truly is about... It starts with... It actually contains almost all of my least favorite tropes. So we have initially miscommunication, where these two people become kind of enemies just because of a slight misunderstanding. One was a doctor who was aiming for a promotion, and this guy just swoops in out of nowhere and is likely going to be taking the place that was rightfully hers. And then it just becomes this really great look into anxiety. I think that Abby Jimenez really wrote the main male character, I forget his name, the way that she described his anxiety was so spot on. I was like shaken by how like she explained things about myself, my own anxiety, that like I've never been able to put into words. It was really a cool experience to read. I will say, like, again, I'm not going to name the rest of the tropes because it might be spoilery, but it contained like almost all of my least favorite things, and yet I thought that just the way that she wrote her characters was really, really excellent. This is also pretty fresh. This is one of the most recent romances I've read, so I think that's why it might be hitting a little harder than, for example, Book Lovers, which I read years and years and years ago. Okay, so I cheated. This is my channel. This is my ranking. I didn't want to put in all of my holiday romances because we'd be sitting here all day. So I decided to only add one, and it's one of my favorites, Snowed In by Catherine Walsh. So this is why I'm cheating, is because I loved Snowed In. Catherine Walsh's other non-holiday book, I think it was like her debut, actually, didn't love it as much, so I wanted to give Catherine her time to shine. Snowed In, I'm actually gonna put it in 5 stars because it saved Christmas for me last year. Since discovering her on Instagram, she's like the funniest person. She makes the funniest stories. She's coming out with another non-holiday work soon that I can't wait for. Actually, maybe she's still writing it. Very unclear. Okay, Catherine, get on it. We are dealing with, I think it's like an old friend, like they lived in a small town in Ireland. They both moved to Dublin. Both of their families expect them to have someone home for the holidays, a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And they decide to fake date and they get snowed in and it's a mess and the family is wonderful and it's just so cute. I believe 5 stars. Romancing the Duke. I'm gonna put it in above average, but also kind of fine because it got a little long and a little weird and very, very bonkers. We are dealing with, this is like a Regency era kind of romance where our main girl's father has passed away, so she has nowhere to live. His money is going, of course, to like some man in her family, whatever. So her uncle is like, hey, I've got this empty castle. Why don't you go live there until we like figure out what to do? So she moves there, except someone is already living there. And he's like, what the fuck, this is my castle. Excuse me. And so we have a reluctant roommates situation. It is so bonkers. Like, I was reading this on an airplane and I literally thought I fell asleep and dreamt certain scenes because they are so ridiculous. Like, her father is famous for his work. He wrote like some kind of fantasy series and he has a legion of fans that are basically like Whovians, like Doctor Who fans. There are like Comic-Con-esque, like they do cosplay and stuff. There's a scene in which they show up and I'm just like, this is not real. Like, she has a pet ferret or something. Oh my god, it was, I'm due for a reread. I might actually read this on the airplane tomorrow when I fly to the US. So, Romancing the Duke. I almost want to put it in 5 stars, but like it was too crazy. Oh my god, People We Meet on Vacation. I swear to you, I love Emily Henry. I don't know. I'm putting it in weird feelings. What are the weird feelings? The only thing I remember about People We Meet on Vacation is, as someone who spent a lot of time in Palm Springs growing up, there is a scene in which one of the characters gets locked on her like hotel balcony with no water in the sun in Palm Springs. And it kind of if I remember correctly, it becomes like a little bit of a steamy scene at one point. And I read that and I started to actually feel dehydrated and terrified. I was like, Emily, have you spent time in the desert? Like, that's just what I want to know. Like, how could you write a scene in which people are likely to die? Like, they are literally in extreme danger, over 100 degrees weather, dry desert heat, no water, stuck in the sun with no ability to communicate, get to safety, etc. And then it suddenly becomes, no. I was worried. I was upset. I was not having fun with People We Meet on Vacation. That's literally the only thing I remember, is just feeling hot and dehydrated and scared. Thanks, Emily. Thanks. Part of Your World. Forgettable. It to me didn't feel super original. It was very much like big time busy city girl meets small town slow living gentlemen. The issue keeping them apart was not only their lifestyle differences, but like an age gap, which wasn't monumental. I don't know, it just didn't, you know, I appreciate what Abby was trying to do, it just didn't hit for me. And the only reason I would recommend it is because those characters show up in Yours Truly and her other Just for the Summer. So, skippable. Okay, I'm a little scared for the next one because I know people our ride or die for this book. Weird feelings for the dead romantics. I did not get this book at all. It's about a girl who, her entire family, I believe they can talk to ghosts. And when her father passes away, she goes back to her hometown, but a ghost follows her. And it's the ghost of a guy that she either hated or had a crush on, or both. And I just didn't really like it at all. I thought that the way that she talked about grief, specifically the death of a family member, like just didn't really sit with me. Especially because, and this is like a plus and a minus for this book, is that I read this recently after my Grammy had passed away. So I was fresh dealing with the loss of a family member. And I just felt like the grief was really surface level and kind of hokey. And then to also have this like ghost romance on the side was it was like everything about it was just kind of weird for me. It's just one of those books that like everybody else loves it and I don't get it. Isn't it wonderful that we all have different opinions, right? Doesn't mean you're wrong. Doesn't mean I'm wrong, right? Cool. Next up, we're just doing hit after hit of like lower rankings. Ali Hazelwood, Not in Love. I'm putting it in forgettable. As you know, Ali Hazelwood is the reason I got into romance. For a book of the month box one month, I randomly was like, yeah, sure, I'll try The Love Hypothesis. And I read it and I was like, oh, these are funny. So for me to rank her low, for what I remember from Not in Love, my issue with this book was that I love yearning. And I love how Ali Hazelwood can write yearning. And this was a case of both parties were already interested in each other. I believe they had like hooked up prior, not really knowing who the other person was. And then they meet in a professional setting and they're like, so I didn't love that. I love when there's like a slightly clueless air to the whole thing where like they might both be into each other, but they're both like, oh, there's no way the other person feels the same way. In this case, they were both like, no, I like you. I know you like me. Let's, the only issues in the relationship were just like professional boundaries. And I was like, ugh, not as fun. So yeah, Not in Love was like not my flavor. Not my flavor. Love Theoretically, however, I will put it in above average, borderline fine. This one was just a funny setup where we have our main girl who is like scientist researcher by day, but by night she is like a date. Like if you need a date to something, like a wedding, or you need to, in this case, convince your family that you're dating a girl because you're not ready to come out of the closet yet, she's there for you. But what happens when the brother of her gay boyfriend is maybe kind of sort of in love with her, but also ends up working in her life? Oh my god, a mess. But I seem to remember really enjoying them and like the conversations they had and all of that. So yeah, Love Theoretically, I remember thoroughly enjoying. Ooh, okay, The Charm Offensive, that's difficult to place. Either I believe or above average. I'm gonna put it in above average just because I don't remember 110% of it. Even though there are so many scenes that are still to this day so vivid. This is about basically like they're filming The Bachelor, sort of, and this season's Bachelor is this actor who's kind of trying to revamp his image. Our other main character is the PD, who is kind of running the behind the scenes, and he is tasked with being The Bachelor's personal assistant, basically. And what happens when the fireworks go off between the two of them? It was just funny, and I remember it kind of dealing with a lot of heavier things. I believe there's like some substance abuse, a lot of anxiety. I remember really, really loving it. I read it again on an airplane and had a wonderful time. Think of it fondly. Oh no, okay. This tiermaker.com has it in for me because it put a bunch of books back to back that I'm gonna have some rough things to say. Just for the summer, I'm gonna put it in fine because I think that Abby Jimenez can write characters really well, but compared to Yours Truly, Just for the Summer I said this in my review about it when I was doing my live reaction, but Just for the Summer kind of felt like two hot people who like fell in love by circumstance. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, Yours Truly, I felt like there were so many points in their personality that matched up. But for Just for the Summer, it really felt like, oh, these are just two hot, young, nice people. Like, it would be very difficult to not fall in love with either of them, right? And so if they meet, they're gonna fall in love with each other. You know, I didn't feel that like soulmate cosmic that I love. So Just for the Summer is about a traveling nurse who ends up meeting someone on like the Reddit Am I the Asshole subreddit. Someone posted something really funny and she just responded being like, that's really funny. And then they just start a conversation that never ends. And she ends up getting a position in his hometown, so they end up dating for the summer. They're like, let's just see, let's try this out, you know? I appreciated a lot of the things that she covers in her books, which is why I don't think this would necessarily be considered a romantic comedy. Like, I feel I remember somebody left a comment on my video saying that they brought this book for their like light vacation beach read and ended up just like in tears. So this one also is like questionable in my case of like me calling it a rom-com. Right? So like a good book, but just not for me. There was a lot of like being at home. She gets sick. She's home a lot. There's also just things where I'm like, you are a emergency room nurse and you're living on an island with a rowboat as your only way of getting to shore to get to work. There were just some questions I had, but you know what? Vibes. That's fine. Abby, do your thing. It was a fine book. A fine book, especially if you want to kind of tear up. Deals a lot with toxic parents. Nothing against it. What I do have against it, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Should I put it in weird feelings or just forgettable? I'll put it in forgettable, even though I liked it even less than The Dead Romantics. The 7-Year Slip. This is another one where I'm just like, I feel like I didn't read the same book as everybody else. Like, what am I missing? And I don't think I'm ever gonna know. And that's, once again, it's okay. It's fine. Okay. The 7-Year Slip is about a girl who is living in her aunt or her great aunt's apartment. And there is a little bit of magical realism in which sometimes, there's no rhyme or reason, but sometimes when you open the front door, you go into like a little time bloop and you go back and forth between 7 years, prior and present day. And so one time she just walks into her apartment and there's a guy there and he's like, oh, hey, your aunt said I could stay here for a while since no one was gonna be here. And she's like, no, I'm gonna be here. So it's a romance across time, you know. I didn't like it. And I felt like the characters were so unbelievable. And I thought that the whole time jump thing, it just felt really hokey. And like, I felt like I was having deja vu. I read this before, or I've seen this story or this idea played out so many times. And I didn't think that it was done necessarily well. And I didn't really like the characters. They felt kind of stupid. And my camera is dying, so I will wrap it up here. But yeah, me and like 2 people didn't like the 7-Year Slip. And that's my truth. Okay, battery change time. Go get a sip of water. Okay, we're back. On to the first of our Hannah Grace's. Daydream, my most recent read. I'm gonna put it in forgettable, even though I do remember quite a bit of it, even though it's kind of just, like I said, fresh. The positives were how she writes her characters and what they struggle with. So I really empathized with a lot of things that these characters were dealing with. Specifically, I believe our main character, our main girl, is dealing with a lot of like people-pleasing issues where she's just like says yes to everything, really just wants to help people, but she doesn't take a break and help herself. Like it's hard to remember that like saying no to some things in order to kind of refill your battery will help people in the long run, you know? I also, like, just based on the author's note, it's very personal to her. It's really long as well. So for me, I say this all the time, but with Hannah Grace, the actual romance is my least favorite part of all of her books. I think that for me, and this goes for all 3 of the Hannah Graces I have read, the group chats, I'd read a whole book of just a group chat. I love the side characters. It starts from Icebreaker and we continue from there, so it's like we're dealing with the same little crew that lives in this hockey house. And they're all just like lovable. And I think that what I really like about all of these books, which, you know, people, I'll save it for when we talk about Icebreaker, but like people shit on her books a lot. I think particularly Icebreaker, just because it's like went viral. The thing about her books is that there's such an emphasis on communication and consent. I really appreciate it. And that's my Hannah Grace take, but unfortunately for Daydream, this one like wasn't it. It was fine. I'm happy to have read it, but I will never reread it, you know? Next up we have The Bodyguard. I'm gonna put this in fine, but I think when I read it, if you had asked me like fresh off the read, I might have put it in above average. This was a fun little twist where we have a movie star who is trying to go visit his mom on her ranch in Texas or something like that, and he just needs to be alone, and like he needs privacy and he needs somebody to watch his back, so he hires a bodyguard, right? And his bodyguard is our main girl. And it was just fun and sad, and it was my first Catherine Center, and I liked it. So it was fine. A good time. Like, as I was reading it, a very good time. So, The Bodyguard. The Love Hypothesis. I'm gonna put it in above average. Why is it not in 5 stars? I don't know. I think it's, you know, it's just time has passed. And I've read so many other books since then, but The Love Hypothesis was my first romance book, and so it was a thing that taught me that, like, romance books could be laugh out loud funny. And I think that there are definitely weird things in this book, but it was a stupid rom-com. Like, I felt like I was watching a K-drama at times. Like, there were a lot of so overly dramatic things happening, which is what I loved when I used to watch K-dramas when I was younger. So it just felt nostalgic and over the top and silly. But I loved it. And I'm here making this video today because of The Love Hypothesis. So gotta give it up to my roots, okay? I'm still Jenny from the block. Jesus, this one took me... This one, I'm coming for you, Jack Edwards, because I remember, I think he recommended it, or he was basically like, I read this book. And I was like, if Jack Edwards read this rom-com, I will read this rom-com. And it happened one summer. It is not forgettable. I'm gonna put it in weird feelings, even though I actually liked the arc. If I zoom out, I liked the story a lot, actually, but once again, the scenes I remember are weird. This is about a kind of Hollywood socialite. Her family is very rich, and I think as punishment for something she does, she gets moved up to her mom's hometown. I believe her dad passed away when she was really little, so she never knew him, but back to the town where her father and mother like first met and fell in love and all of that stuff. It's like this teeny town where most of the people who work there are fishermen. They're like deep sea crab fishermen, like very dangerous work. And then the rest of the people just kind of bop around. You know, she decides to open a bar, and there's a grumpy fisherman who is always in her way. And I liked it. Like, again, most of the story was great, but the smutty scenes... Who was this by? Tessa Bailey. This continues through all of her... I've read some of her holiday romances. I have read, as you will see, Hook, Line, and Sinker. And it happens every time that the male characters, once we get into smutty territory, become different people. Like, I'm all for, like, being more vulnerable and being more yourself, or like kind of putting on a character, whatever, behind closed doors. But this just feels, it just felt really strange. Also that it happened so often, but like in this one, I can't even describe. I just remember being like, get up. Like, get up, sir. I don't know. So it happened one summer, gave me weird feelings, but it was actually a fine book. Next up, I'm sorry to put 2 in a row. Wildfire, I'm gonna put in forgettable as well. This is also by Hannah Grace, takes place at a summer camp, and 2 people fall in love, and these people are dealing with kind of like toxic parents, I believe, parents with addictions, things like that. And again, I thought that she did that stuff well, but the actual like romance and everything else, I was sort of like not interested. And this, she didn't do it in Daydream, but she did it in Wildfire, and she did it in Icebreaker. She writes epilogues that piss me off because they are so over the top happily ever after. Like, most of these rom-coms are a happily ever after kind of ending. She will end a book on like a positive note, and then you will turn the page and there will be an epilogue, and it's like sugary, sickeningly sweet in the future what happens to them, and it's just it cheapens it because it's like there's no way that they could be this happy. Like, it's just... Anyway, I remember being really pissed off by the epilogue for this one. So, icebreaker, I'm gonna put it in fine. And come for me. This is about a captain of the hockey team having to deal with one of the ice skaters because there was a mix-up and one of the college's ice rinks got vandalized, and now they have to share a rink, the hockey team and the ice skaters, and so they're constantly kind of at each other's throats. And you know what? Liked the friendships, liked the side characters, loved the group texts, did not care for the couple. But you know what? They were into it. Like, even though I'm like not a person who really likes smut, and this was a smutty book, even though I don't like reading smut, I appreciated it because they were both so into it and happy, and I was just like, yeah, good for you. Once again, consensual. They were just into each other, you know? I appreciated it. Also, I chime in with this, but like there is a scene where there's kind of more public hookup going on, and I genuinely wonder, people who are so enraged by this, like they're sexually harassing the people around them by performing a sexual act near people who didn't consent to it, right? Sound off, because have you been to college? I'm not saying it's right, but like the amount of kind of public hookups that happen in college, if you're going out, I don't know if COVID has changed things, but like when I was in school and I didn't go out that much, you saw things happened next to you or around you that you were kind of like, gugh, but it wasn't, I didn't feel sexually assaulted. You know, I just like, am I the only one? Like, was it just my college? I don't think so, based on what I've heard from my friends, but like, I wasn't scandalized. I was like, wouldn't be me. But I wasn't as scandalized as a lot of people have been in my comment section. Again, did COVID change it? Because I'm pro the change. But yeah, I don't think comparing them hooking up in a public space to them assaulting the people around them is the right line to draw. One that wasn't fine, I'm gonna put it in forgettable because can I remember a single thing? No. My roommate is a vampire. This is about a girl who is low on funds and is looking for a cheap place to live and finds the sketchiest ad on Craigslist looking for a roommate, and she ends up moving in with a vampire. And it is so unbelievable. Like, there's no logic, zero logic in this book, and it was just not even that funny. Like, it was just so dumb that couldn't believe what I was reading. Forgettable. Literally can't tell you a single thing except for it was weirdly on Craigslist. My roommate is a vampire. After that, I'm putting hook, line, and sinker, unfortunately, in forgettable because I think I liked the story of It Happened One Summer more than hook, line, and sinker. I really don't remember anything about hook, line, and sinker. Like, it's a continuation of It Happened One Summer, except we're following the other sister and this guy who's kind of like the fuckboy. He never settles down, but he seems to have a weird crush on the sister, and will he finally settle down? I don't know. It was very, like, they bonded over their love of music. There was some cuteness to it, but I honestly don't remember. So that's all I gotta say. Hook, line, and sinker. Mixed Signals is also going in forgettable. This I really liked, well, spoiler, I really liked Love Light Farms. Mixed Signals was just kind of forgettable. It's following more characters from the small town. I love the small town, but I seem to remember this is following, he's like a cop, I think, by accident. He used to be a teacher and now he was forced to become a cop. Again, forgettable. But his personality in this book is so different from what it was, at least from what I can remember, in the first book. She kind of like created a new character but used the same name. So genuinely forgettable. I don't... You know, Red, White, and Royal Blue goes in above average. This is one of the few that I've reread. It was just funny. I remember I read it on an airplane, and there's a scene in which the son of the president takes the like turkey. Every year the president pardons a turkey for Thanksgiving, and when he finds out that the turkey is being kept in poor conditions, he opens up his bedroom for the turkey to live in. And I just remember him having a panic attack about the turkey. I actually was laughing out loud in the airplane. Like, I couldn't control myself, tears running down my face, laughing so hard. Just like a goofy, silly, fun time, what if a Prince of England falls in love with the son of the President of the United States? In a magical dream world where we have a liberal Texan female president that loves her gay son. All right. Queer principles of Kit Webb. Above average because there's no plot, and I can't, for legal reasons, I cannot put it in 5 stars. Queer principles of Kit Webb. If you want funny banter with like a whiff of a plot, just a whiff, it's about a son of a lord who needs to put out a hit or something on someone. He needs to do a shady thing. So he goes to the local tavern and asks the owner of the tavern, who used to be in kind of shadier business before he settled down and opened this fine tavern, asks him for some help. And they hate each other on sight. The banter is perfection, and it's really great. And then there's a sequel, The Perfect Crimes of Marion Hayes, which I think is significantly less funny, but it deals with topics I've never seen in rom-coms before, specifically like mothers who feel kind of resentment towards their child, like especially in this time period, it's like the 1600s. What if you were forced to have children and you never wanted children and you just you don't feel any kind of motherly love towards these kids? How do you deal with that? Feeling like a horrible mother, feeling like a horrible human, and then also dealing with consent in a really wonderful way. Yeah, you know me and Cat Sebastian. I go hard for Cat Sebastian, all right? The Queer Principles of Kit Webb. Love on the Brain. I don't remember a damn thing. Not a damn thing about Love on the Brain. I think I remember reading it and being like, oh, this is the love hypothesis in a different font, but not in a completely negative way. Like, I love that storyline. I will read it in a bunch of different ways. But yeah, I genuinely don't remember a damn thing. I think it takes place at NASA. I could have made that all up. In the Weeds. Fine. This is another Love Light Farms book following a grumpy farmer and a social media influencer who focuses on small town businesses. And it was cute. It was cute. It did the job. Pass the time. More memorable than Mixed Signals. No notes. No notes. That time I got drunk and saved a demon. I'm gonna put it in fine, but above average for all of this author's titles. Every single book that comes out in this series, the title is more and more unhinged. And I really appreciate that. Have fun with what you're writing. Go crazy. I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon was really fun. It's about a girl who gets drunk and accidentally saves a demon and then has to like help him. I don't remember, guys. I just remember laughing. It's not any higher because it goes off the rails, so far off the rails that I was genuinely questioning like what was going on. There are pirates at some point or something. They stay overnight in a tavern and then all of a sudden there's like war. I don't know, but I just remember giggling so much reading this. It was a funny, silly, funny time. One last stop. Sadly, I'm putting it in forgettable. I read this directly after reading Red, White, and Royal Blue, I'm pretty sure, and it just didn't hit quite as hard. It is about a girl who is haunting, what is it? The 4 train? The Q. She's haunting one of the subway lines in New York City, and we follow a romance that takes place solely on the subway. I just remember that because of how the story was set up, it didn't kind of facilitate the romance growing in a way that I wanted it to. I didn't really connect with the characters a whole lot, and it just didn't have the emotional payoff I thought it would when you're dealing with like ghosts and death and stuff like that. So that one to me was just kind of forgettable. It wasn't necessarily bad, but like it had zero effect on me. So Happy Medium was fine. This is one that was technically in my Halloween marathon, but it's not Halloween themed at all. It's about a woman who is a fake psychic, and one of her clients asks her to help a friend who is dealing with a haunted house. And so she goes, and when she realizes that there is actually legitimately a ghost haunting this place, she has to use her fake powers to maybe save this guy's life. Grumpy Farmer, there are so many goats, baby goats. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. It was fine. It was fun. Jail.
Y'all gonna make me lose my mind.
Bad Luck Charm. I almost want to read the second book just to see if I will get just to see if justice will be served, because the main love interest in this book is an abusive piece of shit, and I hate him with every fiber of my being. This is about a girl who is running an occult shop in Salem, Massachusetts, and her shop starts getting targeted by a gang. We don't really know. By someone doing like demonic rituals. Like she finds dead animals on her doorstep, you know, like weird stuff. And a detective is charged with investigating the case and also like being her personal bodyguard. This detective is someone that she knew from her childhood who she had a big crush on, and then there was like weird shit that went down and now they don't talk anymore, okay? This man is a sack of everything wrong in the world. I hate him. I hate him. The rest of the story was like whatever. I actually really liked our main, was her name Gwen? Our main character. This man, jail is the only place he belongs. I hate him. Graham, Gavin, Godric, I don't know what his name was. On my shit list forever, okay? Bad Luck Charm. You should be so lucky, I believe. I believe. Another Cat Sebastian. This was on my favorite books of the year list. A journalist is helping a baseball star ghostwrite an article, a weekly article in the newspaper to hopefully revamp his image because he's in the middle of a batting slump and the entire city of New York hates his guts. And that obviously isn't helping him turn his slump around. So, what else can I say? It's great, but it's also technically a historical romance, and it kind of peeks into what it is to be gay and also to be gay and a celebrity in Manhattan in the 60s. I love Love of My Afterlife. I almost want to put it in jail just to be funny. I'm gonna put it in Weird Feelings because I didn't love the story as a whole. Like, it was very whatever, but page, like in chapter 2, Shots Fired, Kirsty, or whatever her name is, the author, writes My Chemical Romance slander. One of the guys is like, you know, My Chemical Romance was cool back in the day, and the main female character is like, were they? Jail. Right? Anyway, yeah, it wasn't awesome. Love of My Afterlife is about our main character. Very first chapter dies by choking on a microwaved burrito, I believe. And then she is given a second chance if she can go back and in like a month's time, if she can make someone fall in love with her, if she meets her true love or something like that, she gets a second chance at life, and we follow her on that journey. There's just like weird, I don't know, man. It just wasn't good. And then like to talk shit about My Chemical Romance, uncalled for. Love Light Farms, I'm gonna put it in above average because it's a romantic comedy I have reread, which is rare. I think I've only reread 2 of these, maybe 3. I don't reread rom-coms. I've reread Love Light Farms. Cozy, goofy, great for Christmas, small town, excellent side characters. It's about a girl who starts a Christmas tree farm and things are kind of going to shit, and she has a big influencer coming to like highlight her farm, and that will hopefully, you know, boost sales and everything like that. So everything needs to be perfect. But she has lied to this influencer and sold this story about how she opened this Christmas tree farm with her true love, and she's not actually dating anyone. So she asks her best guy friend, someone she's known for years, to pose as her true love. And yeah, messy but great. And our final title, this is probably like the 3rd rom-com I ever read, so I'm hazy on the details. The Hating Game, I'm gonna give it Weird Feelings because this was the moment where I realized I hated smut. Like, I'm pretty sure the way that I read rom-coms, I read The Love Hypothesis, which I was like, fresh. I didn't know what to expect. So I was like, okay, all of this is new and I'm, we listen, we don't judge. Then I read Book Lovers, which has steamy scenes in it, but there was a lot more to it, right? The Hating Game, we slip right into the smut. And I just remember reading it. There's a scene with a couch, if I remember correctly. I just remember reading it like, oh my God. What have I read? The Hating Game, I don't remember much about it at all. I just remember being like uncomfy based on like the amount of steam. And that's not the book's fault. Like, that was totally on me. My bad. So that's that. That's my final one. The only thing I remember, is this the one where she gets really sick and he has to take care of her for a really long time? Like an obscene amount of time? What am I thinking of? Because full disclaimer, there are probably some that I'm forgetting, but I kind of scrolled through my story graph. I think the app was kind of glitching because I was looking up, I tried to filter from like books I read in the romance category, and they left out like Red, White, and Royal Blue and stuff like that. So I think I might be missing some. Let me know if you remember which one that was. She just gets really, really sick. Really sick. Like she should be in the hospital. Anyway, The Hating Game. Clearly I don't remember much. Okay, now I'm going to pause you for a second. I'm going to go through the Goodreads and I'm going to show you how wrong my opinions are. Okay? Be right back. All right, my friends. We're back. And as I expected, the whole Goodreads comparison thing was a silly idea. Because when it comes to romantic comedies on Goodreads, it is very difficult to find anything under like a 3.5. So initially, here, I'm going to put this up. Here is my current standing, my rankings, and slightly in opaque over it, here is the Goodreads rankings. So for my like 4.5, did any of them survive? Yeah, no. All of my 5s were moved down. All of my 4.5s were moved down, and then all the other ones were moved up. So I was very wrong. And so because I made the fine section like a 4-star to a 3.5 star, that's like every book on Goodreads. So I decided to further expand that and making fine 4 to a 3.2, and then forgettable I put 3.7 to 3. It's very rare to see anything below a 3.8, so that's why I chose that number. And I feel vindicated because Dating Dr. Dill and Your Roommate is a Vampire are in the lower tier. So I'm right. Some of my bad choices, someone agrees with me somewhere, I put Not in Love and Forgettable as well, so that one like didn't move up or down. That one was correct. So I am not surprised at all by this. I will say, like, funny story, I'm surprised by Better Than the Movies actually being rated so high. But yeah, I mean, I just don't get the hype of 7 Year Slip. Funny story, in like thinking of it as a rom-com, didn't do it for me. Anyway, that's the ranking. I'm not upset about it. I get it. But the lowest book was Dating Dr. Dill. And I believe the highest book... Hold on. Wow. Okay, so the highest ranking book according to Goodreads is Just for the Summer at 4.38, followed by You Should Be So Lucky, which is 4.33. Yes, that's correct. So 4.38, Just for the Summer. And then the lowest rated one was Dating Dr. Dill, coming in at 3.59. If you're wondering what Bad Luck Charm has, it's a 3.79. So, almost in the lowest category. I feel vindicated. Anyway, so there you have it. My thoughts on almost all of the romances that I read. However, I didn't put this in because I read it literally last night, and it's not a rom-com, it's just a romance, but I did finally read 7 Days in June, and wow. Yes. Dark, like the things that they went through, it's very dark, it's very heavy, but I really liked it. And that epilogue was crazy for her to write that epilogue. Okay, those are my thoughts. More to come on my monthly wrap up. Anyway, happy Valentine's Day. I hope that you enjoyed my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts, not only in the comment section, but here on BookTube. So if this is the year that you're going to start BookTube, please do it, and Skillshare will be there as a great resource to help you get started. So once again, thank you to Skillshare. There will be a link in my description box. The first 500 people to click it will get 1 month free of Skillshare. I will have my classes linked down below as always if you want to check out how to start vlogging, the behind the scenes of being a booktuber, etc. Yes, I hope that you are having a wonderful February, a wonderful, slow, but hopefully steady end of winter. Happy summer to those down south. And I will catch you guys next time. So, depending on, let me look at my calendar. I will have just gotten back from my trip to the US by the time that this is posted, so hopefully I will have some interesting US bookish content coming your way. And sending you guys love on this lovely holiday. I'll catch you guys next time. See you later. All right?